You do
So it's
very
good that
other
we have
very important
diversity of
things.
experience. Yeah, it's very good. Anyway, we're
Hi.
live, everybody. So welcome to Brainfood Live on air, bringing it to you. I would normally say every Friday, no fail, but it's becoming like every Wednesday also, no fail. This is the third, I think it's going to be 3 weeks in a row where we're going to do a midweek special. And there's increasing demand for us to do this, not because you want to hear any more from Hung Lee. It is because we've got other things to talk about other than just the panel discussions we normally do and love. Because there's other things we need to know. We need to know about technology. We need to know about case studies. We need to know about reports. So increasingly, the midweek kind of semi-regular Brainfood Live on air is going to be one of those three things. It's going to be some company breaking down a report they've published and taking us through it. It's going to be some company talking to us about a case study that they've performed that we can learn from. And it's going to be some company that has a new product or a new product update that they're going to live demo for us. And that's what we want to do on the midweek. And just given the numbers of people signing up to this episode, we can tell that's popular. So 250 people plus on Crowdcast, which is, I think, the limit for the free tier. And then you have like hundreds more on various live LinkedIn Lives as well. So brilliant to do this. I'm helped, as usual, by someone more intelligent than me. It is Alla Pavlova, of course. So Alla, wonderful to see you. Happy New Year. Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me.
Great stuff. Alla, you might as well introduce yourself to the people who don't know you. So can you, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Sure. I'm also, like everyone else, is trying to figure out where to go, like prompting, workflow building, sourcing. Funny enough, I'm still getting quite a lot of queries for sourcing jobs, so that's interesting. I'm Alla Pavlova, based in Amsterdam, hands-on recruitment, hands-on sourcing trainings for recruiters and managers. Excited to be here because sourcing has been for quite a long time something that I enjoyed because it was like, knowing some tricks and scraping. Now anything is legal. We have GDPR and stuff. So very excited to learn more today as well.
Yeah, and you're one of the people that came out quite strongly to say that sourcing has fundamentally changed with sort of this latest generation of artificial intelligence. And I guess the sourcing community kind of feels, I think at this point, quite trepidatious, don't they? In the sense that, number one, very excited about the possibility of these products and these tools. But on the other hand, also, yeah, quite trepidatious in the sense, what does it mean for the activity of sourcing? So I wonder whether you could give us your perspective on it. Like, what do you think these tools can do, and how does it impact the future of the sourcing function?
Sure. At the last show that we did the summary for 2020, I said that I think sourcing is already more or less automated, and it's going to be really 100% done by tools and technologies, like some of the things like research. We have these tools doing amazing things, like we don't need to worry about making sure the Boolean is great, because it can make sure this is great. The human error in terms of like how we do sourcing can be eliminated by the tools. And I see that the more functionality being built around different platforms. So that's also includes some diversity, because I'm very interested to look into different things, not only like on LinkedIn and some specific websites, but I'm also very excited about some tools that actually can do something with ATS in the countries that it's allowed, where you can search and actually do some great work, like remembering there were some candidates a few years ago, maybe remembering else, and you can just with native search find this person. So that's probably already can be done by tools. So I think we're about to figure out, right?
Yeah, we're about to see it, so it's going to be very interesting. Okay, folks, listen, we're going to dive into this, but let's make sure, firstly, audio visual is fine. Folks, if you're watching this on Crowdcast, do let me know whether the audio and visual is okay. Just let me know in the comments there. You know what? I think we were meant to put this across on LinkedIn, but I don't see myself doing this, so I wonder whether anybody can see this on LinkedIn or not. Thank you, Michael, to let us know whether the Crowdcast is working. That's great. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, or you do see it on LinkedIn, do let me know in the comments. But I think there might be a break there for some reason. Anyway, no worries. Looks like Crowdcast at least is good. Hi, Peggy. Great to see you. I remember our trip to Montreal. Fantastic it was. But let's bring on Sile. Let's get on with it. He is a person that's going to just handhold us through this process. Metaview, but I'll let just Sal explain it. He'll come on. Let's invite Sile. If you're watching this, you should get a pop-up on screen. If you don't, Ala told me to say refresh the screen, refresh the browser, and apparently the invite will appear. Oh, no need for that. Sal knows what he's doing. There he is. And Sal has rolled into 2026 with the most magnificent hair I've seen him sports. Look at the state of this. Amazing, mate.
I really appreciate this new sponsorship package you have, which includes a compliment at the start, a personal physical compliment at the start of the introduction. I think it's a really good addition to your product.
Do you know what? I wouldn't. It's not only compliment; it's accurate observation, Sal. whatever you're doing to your hair, you know what? That is a product people need to know about. But brilliant to see you, Sal. For the folks who don't know you, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Hey, yeah, Sile. So one of the co-founders and the CEO at Metaview, AI company focused on recruiting, spend as much of my time as possible, actually speaking with folks like Ala about how we can use AI to solve their problems and sort of marry what's phenomenal and transformative about this technology with the practical problems that folks in recruiting have day to day. And excited to share some of that today. And obviously, frequently sponsor this community and sort of generally get a lot out of it. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, brilliant to have you on the show. I've just shared the LinkedIn's, by the way, from Ala and Sal. Both people you should connect with. They're actually very popular posters on there, and you can learn a lot actually from following people on LinkedIn. By the way, on LinkedIn, you have to click the notification bell and select all if you want to keep updated on the people you want to follow. And I'd recommend you do that with both Sal and Ala. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Maya. I've actually been to North Macedonia, Strumica. What a wonderful place that is. Okay, great. Sile, this is a live demo, and as near as we can. I know we talked about we have to do data privacy, do all of those things, but you're going to take us through Metaview AI sourcing agent. Before you jump into it, can you just give us a quick overview, like what is this product and what does it do?
Yes, for sure. Can I take one step further back actually before even that? And I'm just going to share my screen. I guess we'll jump into the product straight from this. So let me just choose the right. Here we go. Hopefully, Han, can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yep. Okay.
Let me just take that out of here. Cool, I can see both now. Cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about vibe sourcing. And before we get into even discussing the product itself or even what we do, I just want to take like a sideways step and just sort of unpack what we mean by vibe, whatever. Vibe coding is probably the most common sort of phrase people have heard, but this sort of vibe style of working has gotten really, really popular in general. And so what you can see on your screen here, let me just zoom in a bit so it's a bit clearer, is a Google Trends report over time of two very common ways or increasingly common ways to build software. So the blue line is vibe coding. How often are people searching the phrase vibe coding online, just as a proxy for how popular is this thing becoming? And the red line is for what's called test-driven development, which was like a popular way to build product. Well, still is somewhat popular, but getting less and less popular and certainly far less popular than vibe coding. And I think the reason this is really cool to share is because it gives you an idea of essentially the explosion we're seeing in the amount of people that are unlocked to be able to do, in this case, coding. And what I'm going to show you is in sourcing versus what was possible before. And the sort of the core difference really between, again, let's stay in the engineering world for now, between test-driven development and vibe coding is that the whole thesis behind test-driven development was, listen, it's really costly to go and build product, to go and build software, to write code. So let's be hyper specific about exactly what we want out of when we write this code. And we're going to do that by actually articulating how we're going to test the software before we even start building it. And so there was this massive tax that, very smart companies would introduce before you could write a line of code, which was tell us exactly how you're going to test this, because only then are we going to start to develop it. And so there was this scarcity mindset around building software because engineers are paid so much money, their time is so scarce. We just want to make sure we actually know what we're building before we're doing it. And you can see that has just been totally taken over by this new phrase, vibe coding, which is essentially the opposite of that. It's almost like as soon as you have something on your mind, tell an AI what you have in your mind. It will go and build the first version and then iterate with that agent to make it better and better over time. And if it's still no good, just chuck it away. It's like an abundance mindset, because the thing that used to be very scarce, which was essentially a form of intelligence that knew how to code, which we typically call software engineers, was very scarce, now is not so scarce, because actually artificial intelligence can code. And so you have this abundance. And so this is just to sort of show, I guess, that this sort of vibe way of working is not just it's not just for weekend projects. It's actually affecting how people build and iterate and experiment, like in real companies doing real work. It's just a really different mindset. I want to keep this conversation on, not too long. Does that resonate, Hung, Ala? Does that sort of make sense to you?
It definitely does, Sile, and it kind of changes sort of the prototyping aspect, isn't it? I mean, software engineering, this is all about prototyping. It's about getting stuff out there. People can click through it within a couple of minutes, rather than having to write all of these documents and then go through this, long chain sequence of events before you actually get to an MVP. Exactly. Now it's almost the MVP is the first thing people see, and then you work it out from there. Yeah. And you can imagine how that might then translate into the recruiting world, because we had traditionally worked in pretty much that, let's capture the requirement, let's plan the strategy, let's do this, this, and this. And then we go out and source. Then we find out, oh, it's actually the wrong kind of people. Now it's actually, we can get into the market really, really early and then come back with the information and say, what do you think of this? Do we need to move our position based on what the market is telling us?
Yeah. It sort of flips it to, again, I'll use the coding environment first. It's almost, does this look like the type of thing you want? Or does this product behave what you wanted? Okay, cool. Let's build it for real then. Same thing. Like, are these profiles the type of thing that you mean? If so, okay, we'll go and actually get a bunch on the hook. Where that used to take 1 or 2 weeks, we think using agentic AI, you can collapse that essentially down to, frankly, minutes to get calibrated on what you're looking for. And then also have a bunch of efficiency in terms of, getting those people into a meeting with you, or whatever the next step is.
Yeah, you can even imagine it's going to start changing job design, isn't it, Sile? Like, again, we talk about let's design the job, but if we're designing it without data, meaning without human beings and speaking to human beings that do that job, we then oftentimes create this monstrous sort of document that nobody fits into, and we're wondering why we're struggling to recruit. Whereas now, actually, we can immediately interact with kind of likely sorts, and then together with the market, evolve the right job. And you can imagine that might actually solve a huge amount of recruitment problems, because maybe the requirements capture is wrong. Maybe sort of our imagination pre-data is wrong when it comes down to job design.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so your question to kick this off was, before we jump into what we're showing, like, what are we actually going to go through? So we've been thinking a bunch about, I think Ala sort of mentioned it as well. Like, what is our job as a company? It's pretty aligned with probably a lot of people that are in the Brainfood community, definitely the people that will be joining this. We're all trying to figure out how humans and AI are going to work together to build teams. And that's my number one job as well, is figure that out. And our approach to that is take the most time-hungry workflows that recruiters are involved in, and then go from first principles and think, in a world where you have intelligence on tap, what would change about that workflow? I think the way things have gone recently, with a lot of agentic AI becoming, like, clearly this next decade, frankly, is the decade of AI agents. And that's the approach we're taking as well. So basically excited to take you through our AI agent for sourcing, which you can vibe source with. And I would say the sort of the main thing, whether you're working with Metaview's AI agents or other AI agents, the main thing really is to start to think of AI agents as your co-workers. And that's what I mean by that is both in how you interact with them, but also the type of tools and data you give them access to. The more of the data, the more that they have parity with the data and tools that you have access to, the more likely they're going to be able to help you. It's like, it just makes sense, right? If you hired a person to help you, but said, well, I'm not going to give you access to LinkedIn Recruiter, and I'm not going to give you access to our ATS, but please, can you help me with recruiting? You are not going to get a very productive, person out of that. It's exactly the same with AI. It needs to have access to the tools and data you have, because increasingly it's going to have some of the same skills as well. So overall, just think of AI agents as co-workers. It's the best analogy for working with them. In terms of what we're going to go through, so we're going to go through the anatomy of an agentic search. So it's a little bit of a, maybe it's the drier part of what we're going to go through, because it's not actually a demo, but it's really important to understand some of these sort of core building blocks of how an agent goes and finds profiles for you. We're then going to demonstrate how you can work with Metaview's AI agent to essentially get calibrated on what good looks like, which is, again, very key if you're going to get value out of an AI agent. We're then going to talk about context engineering just very briefly, and what does that look like in the context of sourcing. I would say that a lot of you have heard these stories about AI deployments not going well. I think there was an MIT report that said 95% of AI deployments didn't go well. My guess would be that's predominantly due to the tax and the cost of context engineering, or the people not knowing how to do it. And if you don't do it well, you can't really get value out of the AI. And so we'll talk about how we can make that really easy, essentially. And then we're going to jump into the sort of the main topic, which is the new feature we have, which is sourcing from your ATS or whatever database you want to point our agent at. And then we've got a bonus if we get to it around market research as well. So yeah, should I jump in, Hung?
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for putting the structure in, Sarah. In fact, the psychology of this structure, I think, translates to what you're talking about. You know, you can't just, you got to have some sort of approach before you interact with AI, and we're hopefully going to show that. This is something I think Ala's been talking about as well. Like, you can't just blame the technology as the obvious thing. You've got to work with it, and you've got to bring things to it. So, yeah, brilliant stuff. Let's have a look, Sarah.
Cool. Okay, so we're going to jump over to our AI agent now, and I'm going to bring up just a very simple search that I did to start. And Hannah, can you work out the sort of the character? Can you read this okay, or do I need to make my screen larger? Or
quite small, I think. Yeah, okay. If you can make it a little bit larger.
How are we doing now?
Yeah, this is good for me.
Yes. Oh, very good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what I've got in front of us at the moment, again, we're just going to go through the anatomy of the search to start with, is a search that I did previously. Now, the reason I'm going to show you some live searches, don't worry, but the reason I've got a few loaded up already is because I mentioned you need to start to think of AI agents as a coworker. And much as, frankly, they're far faster than humans at working, they do take time, especially if you have a sort of very detailed ask of the AI. It will actually take time to do the thing. So if I came on here and just showed you only real-time tasks, we might actually spend sort of 3 to 5 minutes waiting for the AI to finish, and that wouldn't be fun for everyone. So I just want to go through the anatomy of the search in this sort of static query that I've already made, and then we'll do some live ones together. So what happened here was I came into this product and I gave a very basic prompt. I'm looking for account executives in San Francisco with experience selling SaaS business applications for at least 3 years. And so what's really cool, again, to use this coworker analogy, Metaview's AI agent has taken this request, which is quite simple, and then started to think through all of the things it needs to do in order to help me with this task. And it's actually got a full audit trail of its thinking. So almost very much like, whether you know it or not, whenever you make a request to a colleague about something you want them to do, of course, they're starting to think through, well, how would I do this for you? You can actually see that full audit trail here. So I'm going to zoom in a bit just so it's easy. So, it's almost its own mental, it's sort of like its stream of consciousness. The user is looking for account executive in San Francisco with SaaS business applications. This is a sourcing request. So it's identified this as a sourcing request. So I need to, firstly, create an ICP, which is an ideal candidate profile. We'll get onto in a second. Then launch the search tasks. So it's basically done a little bit of thinking to realize, well, the first thing I need to do, given this query, is create an ideal candidate profile. The reason, again, this coworker analogy is really cool is because if you won't analyze the thinking trail every single time, but if you're finding times actually where you're not feeling calibrated with the AI, the fact that you can see how it got to where it got to is an opportunity for you to almost manage it and tell it, well, hang on, you're doing it wrong this way. And I can see this because your thinking is actually very transparent. So again, when we think about the anatomy so far, my request, it's done some thinking, which I have transparency into, and I can put it away if I want to. And then the next thing it did is it created what's called an ideal candidate profile. So,
question, Sile.
Go ahead.
How does it how does it know the ICP? Is it like, where do they draw that information? You've given it sort of fairly basic account exec, San Francisco, 3 years experience selling SaaS. Is that enough information? Like, how does it actually construct this document we're seeing now?
Yeah, it makes, there's a couple of things. It makes inferences from that. So essentially like logical maybe I would say common sense extensions, like the fact that I've said 3 years experience probably means there's an upper bound on the experience, at least for the first search that I'm going to do. The other thing I would say is these are ephemeral, right? I can both edit its thinking and say, no, it's not 7 years, it should be 10 years, or actually I don't care about the upper bound, whatever it might be. And secondly, as we'll see later on, I can have various search strategies running at once. So this is just one suggested search strategy. It also, so that's one, is it, you know, if you walk up to the agent and use it right now, it will not sort of poll you for more and more information before it does a search. That's not the way this works. Very similar to if you asked, you know, a product, like a coding agent to build a product, it will do a first version. You might hate the design, you'll change it. There's some of that here as well. Having said that, as you use the product over time, it builds up knowledge on you. So this is where maybe this is like talking like my world, my sort of the AI world a bit too much. One of the things people often worry about with AI companies is, hey, where's the moat? Because like, why don't I just jump from this AI agent to this AI agent and just move all the time? Well, one of the reasons is because you are going to want to commit to an AI platform because it's going to get to know you. And so in this case, you'll see there's this little book here with this icon on it, and it's knowledge. And essentially what I have in this, although I don't actually have too many in this case, is pieces of knowledge that the AI will apply whenever I do a search in future. So it's going to suggest, it's going to grow this knowledge organically. But let's say I wanted to add one. I could say, when I search for AEs, assume I am looking in San Francisco, or something like this, you know? So I can essentially give it this knowledge that builds up over time, such that I can give these very vague prompts, just like I can with a colleague. Like if I was speaking to a stranger and say, hey, I'm looking for some AEs, yeah, they'd have no idea. Where the hell should I look? What sort of experience? When I'm talking with my recruiter that I work with at Metaview, they know what I mean. Well, it's either going to be in our London or our San Francisco office. We know what style is sort of like looks for in an AE. That's exactly the same type of relationship you'll end up having with the AI. The difference being, the knowledge of the AI is going to be auditable. You'll actually be able to see it and say, hey, holy shit, we're sort of like, we're on a different path here. This is not what it should be.
That is called tacit knowledge, folks. Tacit knowledge. In other words, knowledge that is not necessarily explicitly sort of communicated, but the thing works it out through just basically the knowledge of working with the user. And as you say, Sal, this is exactly the relationship that we really treasure with sort of our human colleagues. And why it's so painful when we have like an experienced colleague that we've worked well with sort of leave the company. So we think, oh my goodness, all of that tacit knowledge is going to go. We now need to onboard somebody new and we have to rebuild all of that stuff. It's like ripping out an AI you've worked with for 5 years and then having to use another one. Hugely traumatic, which is why I can understand why there's a retention element to AI usage as well. This is where there will be a moat. There will be a relational kind of moat, so to say.
Yeah, for sure.
May I ask you, maybe it's too deep, but when you create this knowledge, it is created for a specific role. Let's say you can decide like, I'm going to build the project. It's going to be for accountant. This is going to be for developers. And I see that you have two options, like the one that's just shared for the workplace and the one that is your private. Like, but in case of the roles, like, I know that I can delete some things because I want to forget. Let's say I choose like else. But if I'm searching for different roles, the knowledge will be developed for different roles.
Yeah, correct. So essentially the way that you manage knowledge, which I think will get more sophisticated over time. So I don't want to turn up here and say, hey, we've got all this knowledge management figured out. I think it's a big part of our job in the future, so that frankly, our customers don't have to worry about it too much. Is you have some things that are about essentially me. Whenever I'm searching, this is what I mean. And then you have things at a workspace level. Now, in the separate part of Metaview's application, you can manage your workspaces. Workspace does not equal organization. You might have your workspace as the whole organization. You might have your workspace that I'm in at the moment is my engineering, recruiting within my company, and then you manage the workspace knowledge that way. And so actually one of the we're lacking at the moment is there's just a global knowledge, like no matter what, any search in this company has to satisfy this, assume this. People obviously manage it by just duplicating the knowledge across workspaces right now. But yeah, that's how you can control the knowledge. And this will get more sophisticated over time, to be clear, but that's how we have it set up right now.
Yeah, but it's basically like training your AI agent. This is what is missing in a lot of tools. We don't know what is behind. So we don't know what it knows about our search, our habits. And so
Yeah.
I think this is the first thing I'm getting very excited about.
Nice. Good to hear it. So this is a search I've already run. So I can't edit this version, the version 1 of the ICP. But essentially I would have been, I did have a moment where I could. And in reality, if I would have seen this, I probably would have changed the sort of the target company, or like the example target companies, because it's just inferred, made a best guess of what it thinks are good target companies. I actually disagree for us in this case. So that's like a, bad AI in this case. But again, it's a collaboration. It's my job to help it be right. And I didn't do it in this case. But essentially this ICP, this document is probably the most important part of, in our case, let's just focus on Metaview. I think there's analogies you can have to other products as well. But in our case, this is the most important thing, is this ideal candidate profile. This is almost your shared understanding for this particular search of what we're trying to achieve. And this document gets updated throughout your search as you're telling it, no, I don't like that candidate, I like this one instead, or this profile, sorry. Or as you're giving it sort of very detailed feedback, it continuously updates versions of the ICP. So you have a sort of shared understanding of this is what we're looking for. And we see all types of ways that people end up using this document, because it's almost like ambiently put together as almost the sort of the full job requirement document, because it's actually sort of reacting to the reality of the candidates it's finding. So yeah, ICP is really key. It's essentially what the AI uses as its like more unfurled prompt, so it knows what to look for out there on the market. So cool. So that's the next thing. I said that ICP looks good at the time, and then it sort of kicked off its search. And again, I have its sort of reasoning trail here where it told me what it was doing. I didn't actually sit here and watch it do the work. First time you use it, the first few times you definitely will, because it's really cool to see it sort of do the thinking. And its first set of searches, it found some great candidates. And it thought, I need to filter this down. Okay, cool. I found 56 in this case. And it presented these candidates to me. I'm not going to show these candidates just because this is a live search. The rest of the searches we'll go through are dummy data searches. But essentially, you can see it's waiting for me to give it feedback on 5 candidates so that it can then do another search. Because it's not sure. It's saying, hey, listen, just again, if you think of this as a coworker, I've given it a very brief instruction. It's brought back in 5 minutes 56 profiles for me to look at. It wants some feedback before it goes and finds more people that might be appropriate for us to reach out to. And so that's the anatomy. You give it a prompt, it tells you what it understands essentially in a more detailed manner from that prompt. You collaborate with it on that if you want to, and then it finds you some profiles. You give feedback on those profiles, and it sort of goes again and again and again. And so that's the anatomy.
May I ask you, one of the most popular question in the comments, it's about the search. Where is it searching for? So can you see what is using, like, is it on like only specific resources? Can you influence as well where it can search?
So if you look down here, you can tell the AI agent where you want it to look. In this case, I was telling it to search the open web and to search my ATS and my Metaview instance. And so we're going to do some searches in a moment where we're only going to look at our owned data, which is the ATS and Metaview data. So sorry, if people may be missing the context, by Metaview data, I mean candidates I've had a conversation with, because Metaview has a very popular AI note taker. So if I've spoken to thousands and thousands of candidates across my company, then I also have their data, natively in my company. In terms of the web, there's sort of two, it's basically publicly available profiles on the web. I can also instruct it to visit particular sites. So it can sort of spin up a browser in the background and go and search those sites as well, if you'd like, just like a coworker would. So database of publicly available profiles is sort of where it gets frankly, the majority of the profiles from, but then additional sort of long tail searches of, hey, go and check Google Scholar and find me people who XYZ, or go and check Dribble and find the people who've made the most, these types of things. You can also tell it to do that.
Nice. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so where we're at so far, we have zoomed in too much on this slide. We have gone through the anatomy of a search. Now we're just going to kick off our first simple search. So let me pull up a new search here. And in this case, I'm going to ask a really simple one. Let's see. No, not that one. Okay, well, I'll just do one. So just so we know how it goes. I'm looking for a CFO who has experience of mergers and acquisitions based in the US. So I just spoke to the AI to tell it what I was looking for. In this case, because we want to sort of limit it just to candidates who we actually know, and we want to focus on our sourcing from our own database, I'm not asking it not to look at the web. In this case, this is a great search for looking at my own database anyway, right? Because a lot of the time a CFO won't especially someone, frankly, that senior, they won't have a ton of information about them online. It's really going to be if I've spoken to some candidates in the past who have done this, then I'm going to have that information within my company that no one else on the planet might have. And so, yeah, I've just gone from this really simple query to obviously this search lined up and ready to go that I'm now going to kick off. And we're going to it's going to do the same thing that we sort of took you through in the anatomy before. The first thing it's going to do is have a think about what to do. So you can see it sort of real time, sort of outlining its thinking here. And again, it's arrived at the same first conclusion, which is to create an ICP document. So that's what it's working on now. And just to give you a feel for how quick that process is, we'll give it a few more seconds to get that done. There you go. So I think that was about 20 seconds. I've now got this first draft of a much more detailed, you can look at this as a job spec, or you can look at this as a sort of just a sourcing strategy for this role. So we'll just stress test it real quick. Chief Financial Officer, strong mergers and acquisitions experience based in the US. A few must-have requirements. It's derived from my prompt, which I can change if I'd like to. I mean, as simple as, well, I'm open to 30 years experience, let's say. One thing I would say that's really important is the agent will also apply common sense. So if it finds someone who has 14 years experience, satisfies every other condition, but only has 14 years experience, or only has 30 or has 31, it's obviously not going to rule them out. These are just, there's sort of common sense at play here. Yeah, and the key thing is demonstrated experience leading or playing a key role in mergers, acquisitions, or divestitures. So I'm going to say that this looks good, and then it's going to go off and sort of run this search. But what I really want to sort of focus on for this sort of portion of it is really, as I said, make sure that AI agent is on the right page and calibrated. It's really that process where I can edit this ICP document, which gives me confidence it's going to go off and is working on top of high quality instructions. And so my workflow, one of the things that we want to make happen in the world is, before I sign off for the evening, I have 5 recs that I'm working, and maybe 3 of them could do with more pipeline. And yeah, I don't want to go and do I don't want to source all evening, but what I might do is set up 3 of these searches in parallel and sort of let it go off and find me a bunch of profiles so I can wake up to them in the morning. And there's nothing stopping me from running multiple of these at a time. We will actually do that in a second, but where the sort of the human input is really valuable is you'll get terrible results if you have a terrible ICP. If the ICP is not actually what you're looking for, you're not going to get good results because that is what the AI is executing on top of. And so this is sort of how you collaborate with it. You can see what it's done now is it's created its to-do list. So, I mean, the way AI agents behave is just quite funny. They really benefit from having a to-do list that they work through. And so what we've instructed our agent to do is always create a to-do list for the search, and it will literally go through and tick off these as it goes. As you can see, it's still doing some thinking and looking through essentially looking through the database, or in this case, our greenhouse and our Metaview instance for these candidates.
Sorry, I don't know. Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm trying to. Yep. Sorry, I wanted to ask you a question. I'm probably you're super enthusiastic. So, can this AI agent, this knowledge that you have right now, learn from the notes that were taken during the interviews, the nuances that were given during the the database that we have? So, can it learn not only from you but also from the interviews?
Yeah, that's exactly what using sort of Metaview as a database means. It means I will also go through interview conversations to find people who mentioned that they were involved in a merger and acquisition in this case.
It's only possible if I include this option to include my Metaview notes, and then I can look back to the knowledge, because it was one of the questions, and I think it's a great question. It can learn from feedback from hiring managers, from other interviews, from the panels, etc. And this knowledge can be added to the AI agents that continue searching for relevant people, right?
It doesn't actually right now store knowledge at a candidate level, if you know what I mean. So it won't. It knows.
That's what I meant, actually.
Yeah. It knows when it's shown you a profile before, but it doesn't store. Hey, Ala didn't like this profile for this reason. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. It's just I just want to be transparent. We don't do that right now. The reason it sort of hasn't made the list just yet is because it's obviously quite a sensitive thing to get right. We don't want to misinterpret Ala doesn't rate this profile and misapply that in other scenarios, and therefore that candidate doesn't get surfaced when really they should. So we sort of err on the side of, well, let's be quite liberal in showing profiles, and of course they can still not sort of accept them again if they want to.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Cool. Sal, a quick question on my side. I'm going to just ask this. It's a little bit of a sidebar, but I mean, immediately I'm thinking the application for this is like for a CRM rather than even a recruiting tool. So, like someone, let's say a CEO has got like zillions of people that he or she's interacted with, not recorded sort of forensically. It's not particularly updated, but it may be recorded via Metaview notes, in which case it would be damn useful if that person could just say, hey, listen, can you bring up the list of 5 people I've spoke to over the last 5 years that have got this interest and happen to, their career path since has gone down this direction. Can you bring that information to me? I mean, have you thought about, is that a potential direction for you guys? Like beyond the recruiting side, it goes into, I don't know, sales even, it goes into CRM type stuff?
Honestly, we have many people who use this product for things aside from just sourcing, including business development and things like that. The way that we think about the broader landscape is there's a lot, we'll get into it in a second, that's very recruiting specific about this. Like an ICP is quite a recruiting specific thing. When we present the profiles back to you, there's some specific controls you have that are very recruiting specific. So we are totally focused on hiring and recruiting, but there are some core sort of primitives of the product that we think are going to become popular maybe in other, like in sales as well, but we're laser focused on recruiting. And maybe we're in a cool spot right now where this is ahead. Actually, I honestly believe this is ahead. Usually, frankly, recruiting technology is behind what the sales team get and this sort of thing. That's not the case right now. And I know that because we have salespeople who do use it for the thing that you described, but it's not what we're hanging our hat on. It's not what we're trying to, it's sort of a happy coincidence, or like it's a coincidence we're ambivalent about. It's not the goal.
Yeah. Got it. Very good.
Cool. Okay. Let me just make sure we're on track. So while that's searching, we're going to come back and look at some outputs in a second. But one of the things that, really I've done like a bad example in many ways is I've given quite poor prompts, essentially. Much as I sort of like quickly reviewed the ICP, I didn't give it much attention. I shouldn't really, in this case, I probably do expect actually pretty good outcomes because I've told it only to look at my database anyway. So like basically I've said, anyone I've spoken to in the past or anyone in the company I've spoken to in the past who's a CFO, who's been part of M&A, I want to know who they are. And I don't expect many people to be returned because it doesn't happen often. So this is probably going to be an okay search. But what I want to sort of maybe show you is if I did want to do a more detailed search where I really wanted to sort of express to it like a lot of the requirements I have, that's where this can sometimes get a little bit taxing. And so what I'm going to do is show you the really smart ways that Metaview's note taker and the AI sourcing agent can work together to massively reduce the amount of work you need to do to get the AI aware of what you're looking for. So in this case, what I've got is I've got an interview that one of my colleagues did with a candidate. This is dummy data. This candidate's called Terry. Metaview is familiar with the candidate's resume. And also we learned a ton about the candidate in this actual conversation itself. And I thought Terry was like a really good example of the type of person that we want to hire. And so I'm going to tell the AI agent to find me similar candidates. So the reason this is so cool is because there's so much unstructured data that we pulled out from Terry during our conversations with them that the AI can now essentially filter through to try and make a really educated guess about what is it that Sal liked about Terry, and then it's going to play that back to me, and then it's going to go and do the search. And I can obviously guide it. I can say, well, this was previous experience is relevant, really liked their approach to leadership and exposure to building payment systems, let's say, or so whatever it might be. So I'm giving the AI a clue. Like, again, I'm not taking too long, but giving it an idea of what I really liked about this candidate. And then just based on that, again, just a few seconds, Metaview's sourcing agent has got so much context with which it can now kick off a search. So what you'll see is what it's done is it's got this whole interview conversation. So like an hour-long conversation we've had with this candidate, plus the little sort of bit of guidance that I gave it, and it's going to do the same thing again. So this is the really cool way to massively reduce the amount of work I need to do to sort of set the context. In this case, you'll see actually.
Quick question, Sile. Sorry.
Yeah.
So let's say you go through the interview. That's great. The transcription's there. How does the AI identify like a good or bad answer from a candidate? Like they may say the same thing, but perhaps I'm dissatisfied with the response. And you know what? I that's not actually what I want. I actually want someone who's got a better response. How does the AI handle that?
It doesn't. That's your job as the human in the loop, is to tell it, hey, really, you can specify what you saw. I had this opportunity to specify what I liked. The thing I would say is the sourcing agent is heavily biased towards verifiable information that was derived from the interview. So yes, if in the interview the candidate said, I learned a lot in my time at company XYZ. That's really affected how I go about through, that's how I lead. And if I thought that was like a bad thing, I was like, well, I liked everything else, but not that. Yeah, I'm going to have to let the AI know that sort of proactively. It's going to assume that that's something that I want in the future. In this case, you can see actually the agent said, well, I don't really think I know enough to do a good search here. And it's asked me for some additional information before it actually even creates the ICP, which I think is a great. I wasn't actually expecting that, to be honest. I was expecting it to create an ICP, but clearly it didn't think it could do a good job of creating the ICP. And just like I would expect a high agency colleague to do, is like saying, well, if you just give me this quick information, I think I can do a much better job first time around.
That's actually highly skilled recruiting behavior right there.
Yeah.
To push back on a requirement and say, actually, I don't have enough information. I mean, how many recruiters just do a yes on a quick JD and go off and recruit? Whereas in fact, you don't have the information to do that. And the AI here is actually basically, I wouldn't say down tools, but it's pushed back to say we need more information. So this is high quality stuff.
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to show one more sort of like a demonstration of how you can do good context engineering for an AI agent without it taking tons of time. And then we'll go into, well, what are the actual results and how do I sort of interact with the profiles that are raised? So I'm going to start another search. And again, I'm going to speak because I find that much easier than typing, especially in a high pressure, stressful situation like this one. And I'm going to say, I really like my existing sales team. I really want to hire more folks like them. I'm going to upload their resumes and we want to look for more B2B SaaS account executives based in the San Francisco Bay Area who have experience selling productivity software just like these folks. Okay, so that's taken my prompt. I'm now going to attach the resumes. I don't think you'll see this. This won't be on the screen that you're seeing, but you'll see it in a second. I'm going to attach the resumes of a bunch of my team. And so this is, again, like a hack for me to give the AI, without me having to sort of enumerate every single thing I'm looking for in a profile. Really, I'm a human here. I just really like the team I have. Can you figure out what's common about them and then go and find maybe some more profiles, and we'll see if that's the right way to go about this. In this case, I know I'm not going to have that many in my ATS, so I'm just going to actually tell it to focus. I don't want new profiles. I'm going to tell it to focus on the web, and it will go and do that. So again, we're not going to look at the results of this one. This is just more to demonstrate there are really smart ways that you can give the AI context so it has a really good chance of doing a great job that are quite human, right? I haven't actually written the whole job description. I haven't actually gone through every, corner case of whether, I want X, Y, or Z. But I know that these people in my team are great and I want more people like them. And let's see what that fires off.
Could you just have added just LinkedIn profiles, links, web links? It would do the same job, or it's possible, right?
Yeah, you can add LinkedIn links, yes, or just download their resume from LinkedIn, whatever makes most sense.
but both will work the same.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep, that's right. Cool. So here's the, I'm just jumping back now to, so anyway, let's keep the narrative going. So we've sort of just finished number 3 here, just to show you what does context engineering look like for sourcing. Essentially, you should think about context engineering as what's the unstructured data I have that I would really need a coworker to have in order to do a good job for me. In my case, it's, well, you should understand my current team and that I think they're great. We want more people like this. And you should understand of the candidates that I've seen in the pipeline so far, which of them that I like, which one did I like, which did I not like? That's like some really important, recruiters just intuitively use that all the time, right? They saw someone, they get them through the funnel, they get rejected at first stage. They think to themselves, oh, I wonder what I got wrong there. What did I see that the hiring manager didn't? And they react accordingly. That is what context engineering means. It's not engineering in some ways is a misnomer. It's more just thinking about, what is it that's intuitive to me, or do I pick up ambiently and going throughout my day that I want the agent to have access to as well? And so we're sort of in a halfway phase here where Metaview does some of the work where it sort of assumes what the right context is, but also like your job as someone wielding this tool is to sort of meet it halfway and give it the things that it might otherwise not know. Cool. Okay, let's jump back into Metaview and see some actual outcomes, shall we? So I did a search earlier today. This is dummy data, so no harm in showing the actual outcomes now. And I asked the agent to check my ATS for engineers that we have spoken to that have experience building payment systems. Now, if you're trying to hire an engineer with payments experience, sometimes it's really obvious. Oh, they've been at Stripe, they've been at Square, whatever. Okay, they have payments experience, although sometimes they actually haven't in those companies because there's other things those companies do. But other times it's not as obvious. Maybe they've been at Airbnb, maybe they've been at Uber, and those have big payments teams as well, and they work on really complex payment systems. And sometimes you're only likely to pick that up if someone's noted it down in your ATS as part of, when they interviewed or spoke to that person, or indeed if it's in the conversation itself. And so what we have here is I asked Metaview for this data. It then came back with 12 candidates that are inside the ATS that I can now reach out to. The reason I know they're in my ATS, one is because I told the AI only to look inside my ATS. The other is you can see there's actually a link through for each of these profiles. There's a link to their profile on, in our case, Greenhouse here, which is really cool. And you can see the AI has also sort of summarized why this candidate's been included in the return. So in this case, very obvious Stripe payments experience. Here's what I actually mentioned: Airbnb. They migrated Airbnb's payment system to a new architecture. That's cool, and so on and so on. So essentially, it's looked through my ATS and my Metaview instance and found all the candidates we have spoken to who have experience building payment systems, which is what my query was. So like a great way to resurface candidates that may have been spoken to by a different recruiter in a different corner of the company that you now have access to. So I think that's like a big part of what we've finally got there to what we were trying to talk about with as part of this session. I'll pause for some reactions, and I want to show you some other cool stuff with some other searches as well. What do you think about that, Ala?
I do love it, and I think it's something that we struggle quite a lot because we have some good candidates, but we don't probably create the tag system or something else. Mm-hmm. And for us, it's difficult to find it just by even a company or keyword. So I think a few things I see here. So I can probably give more context, like the year spoke with the candidate or the company they work. Make a list of everyone I interviewed from Uber, who were engineers, or I will be very, very interested. Also, for example, make a list of anyone who said they're not open to relocation. It's a few things or relocation to a particular country. So I can really, really play with it, because if it doesn't work for my colleagues, it can work for me because we remote or whatever, or location is our location.
Yeah.
Excited.
Question, Sile. Is there a way, how up to date is the candidate data? So for instance, let's say this historical data is tracking right now because I've interviewed them or my colleagues have interviewed them. Could I ask for stuff I want people who have subsequently gone on to work for X company, and then it's going to have to go into the web, I guess, and cross-verify that type of stuff. Is that sort of in the system yet, or is it something you plan to build, or what?
You would need to either iterate with the AI to get there or explicitly give it like a plan in the first place. You see how it made its to-do list. Okay, let me take one step back again. You have it I guess let me put it back to you. Could you explain to a human that you want them to do that? The answer is yes, which therefore the answer is yes for the AI as well. But you might have to explain it. You might have to say, hey, first of all, go and find all the people in the ATS who have XYZ, and then look them up and see what they're doing now. And then let me know which ones are, seem to have like most thrived or something like that. So it can do all of those things. There might be where Metaview really excels is in, some of these UIs are really great ways to help calibrate it. So I can let it know, yes, this is a great candidate. That's exactly what I meant. No, this is not. So like, don't do. So some of the, we've built specific ways to interact with the intelligence that we think are very common. If you have a sort of an uncommon ask, it can still just reply to you in text, whatever you're asking.
Could be used with diversity as well. So I see some questions about diversity. It's always very hard to find, if you some time ago you like interviewed somebody, you want to come back. So it looks like that can pull out this date and say, hey, you actually didn't interview any diverse candidate for this role, and this could be flagged.
Yeah, that relies on us. We only consume diversity data if it's there as an attribute. We don't infer it from anything. You might think there are some ways we could infer it, but we sort of explicitly try not to do that. And so it's only if it's actually an attribute in the ATS that you can do that.
Sure.
What I want to show you mentioned relocation. So I asked the AI just to tell me all the people we've spoken to are open to relocation, just as an attitudinal thing, not to a particular location, just like who's open to it. It found 26 people that are in here, which I sort of just showed you. But I wanted to know a bit more that wasn't included in this presentation of this candidate pack. And so I then asked the AI, can I get a CSV of each candidate with their key information alongside where we gained the insight that they are open to relocation and any additional context about their willingness to relocate. So again, like it's just a sort of a bit of a peculiar or exotic request that I had. So the AI went and built this table with sort of general information about each candidate. And it told me where it got the information from that it believes they're open to relocation. And it's given me the actual quote that we have from the candidate. So in this case, relocation is something I'm actually looking for. Chicago's cold. I'd love to move somewhere warmer, but honestly, I'm open to anywhere. So that's what that really brings to life is that is easily something I may not have included in my sort of what I noted down in the ATS. It's definitely not something they've included on their public profile because they wouldn't want their current employer to know they're trying to get away from Chicago. I love Chicago, by the way. I don't know what this person's talking about. But it is data that you have that potentially no other company on the planet actually has, right? And so your ability to now, because you can spawn as many of these AI agents as you want for a fraction of a cost of what you might otherwise need to pay, people to go through all these interviews, you can now sort of pick out these insights that give you an unfair advantage on like that one sort of diamond in the rough candidate that you otherwise would have missed.
Yeah, so I see some people regret choosing another companies for note-taking, but if they did so, can you help them to search in their data?
You can upload whatever you want. So right now you'd have to upload, if you have transcripts from something else, you could upload transcripts. Obviously, you don't want to go through and upload 3,000 transcripts and say, hey, can you find people from this? So it is better. There is definitely like a better together story with the note taker. I would say sourcing as a whole, a lot of people's now first experience of Metaview is sourcing. In fact, the majority now, the first thing they do when they come to Metaview is they use sourcing. And then they realize, well, the agent would be even better if it had my conversational data. So I'm going to start to do that as well. And that's usually the path that people take. But if you're already, we can also buy you out of existing contracts if that's what.
Thank you. It was a very important question.
I tell you what, though, Sai, one thing you've taught me here is how much sort of the usage of a product is going to just promote the continual usage of it. Because there's going to be a switching cost associated to any business because you've got all of that intelligence into the interview. If I've interviewed, 1,000 people, 10,000 people with Metaview, how hard is it going to be for me to switch out of that? It's going to have to be a significantly better product for me to even think about doing it. And so I can certainly see how this is going to just really be, as you mentioned at the beginning, one of these moats that emerge rather than it being immediately apparent. So yeah, very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think conscious of time. So I think I had a few more I was going to show you, but I think you get the gist. The fact is, just as you would have a co-worker, when you give them a new rec you want them to work, they have a few thoughts that pop into their head about way to go. Sometimes it's their like just browse the internet for people, usually LinkedIn. Sometimes it's go into my existing systems. Exactly the same with AI. I think I did see a question around, hey, how does it get access to the ATS data? This is like a native integration with the ATS. So we are partners of these ATSs, and there's an API level integration with them, and that's how we get this data. So yeah, that just FYI, that's how it works. It's not like a like you have to authenticate it or something like this. This is an official partnership. And yeah, so I think this is by far the best way to get value out of the data in your ATS from a sourcing perspective. Again, you've seen a few cases where in reality, the data in your ATS about a candidate is often like a fuzzy picture versus the real clarity you have from the conversation. So Metaview, when you use the note taker, it tends to bias towards using the note taker data because that's literally what they said as opposed to someone's interpretation of what they said. But it works just the same for the ATS data.
Yeah, great stuff. I'm going to have to ask a question about sort of hallucinations, Sile. How have you handled the hallucination risk? Because, there's quotes there that people are saying this person has said this. I'm assuming that's actually just directly lifted from a transcript, right? So it's not something that's generated.
Yeah. AI, I think it's pretty fair to say will never be 100%. There are techniques now that we deploy and that any sort of serious AI company will deploy that really reduce your error there. The two most common are literally you can have a setting with any LLM company around how creative you want it to be, and obviously in every scenario we have it as lacking in creativity as possible. I.e., it shouldn't extrapolate from the information it has. It should only report the information it has. And then the second is you can have multi-agent sort of essentially validation of a data point. So, for example, in this case, when it pulls out a quote, it'll actually ask another agent to go and verify that quote exists in this piece of in this source data. And so you're getting towards like 3 or 4 nines level percentages, i.e. 99.999% of the time it will be accurate. But I would still say this is a really powerful tool. The humans that are wielding the tool are responsible for making it, are still responsible for filling the rec and collapsing that time to fill. It's going to help you massively, but it's important to see it as almost like a subordinate, I would say, and build up your trust with it over time.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Go ahead, Ala.
Maybe when it comes to automatic searches, is there any capabilities for that? So, for example, I wake up in the morning and I have my today freshly baked 20 profiles.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for asking, actually. So yes is the answer, to answer very directly. So essentially Metaview will, based on various things that happen within your workflow, so whether it's like opening up a new rec in the ATS or whether it's having an intake call, it will use that as a marching order as well to go, well, I'm just going to go and, I'm going to go and find some profiles for you because I know that's probably what you're going to want to do today. We're going to get smarter about that. So one of the things we're working on at the moment is so that if we see that you've interviewed candidates for a role recently, maybe rejected a lot of them, all of a sudden the pipeline's in a less healthy spot than you thought, you've been wanting to get around to sourcing, but we can pick all that up and go and do the first 5 steps for you, right? And so we can get really smart about that proactivity. And I would say the two, I already mentioned that context engineering is one of the things that's holding back people from getting the most out of AI, and shared some examples of how Metaview solution means that you don't have to engineer the context that much because you just give it the conversational data and then it works it out from there. The second thing that's really sort of phenomenal about agentic AI is exactly what you said, which is proactivity. How can it do things without me even having to think that I should be doing this? Maybe I didn't even get to it on my to-do list that I need to kick off a search for this role. Just the mere fact it was written on my to-do list maybe is enough for it to know I'm going to go and do it. That's exactly the sort of proactive stuff that we're really excited about.
Brilliant stuff. Sile, thank you so much for spending a full hour with us demoing. Brilliant demo, by the way. I know it's very, very challenging to do a demo of that period of time on such an interesting and in-depth product. So thank you very much for it. I'm sure everyone's like thinking, okay, great, this is amazing. How do I actually get involved? How do I learn more? How do I try it? What is the scenario here? What's the entry point to this product, Sal?
Best bet, you can walk up to AI sourcing and use it. So if you go to metaview.ai, you'll see the sourcing module there and just take it for a spin. If you want to get into some of the more, a little bit of hand holding to make sure you get the best out of it within some of the sort of cool ways that I showed, then we have a team of product specialists who are sort of ready and waiting to chat with you. So you can either do that also via the website, or if you ping me personally on LinkedIn, I can sort of route you to the right person. So yeah, LinkedIn is where I spend a lot of time. So if you want to speak to me, go there. Website is metaview.ai. I think those are your best two bets.
Brilliant stuff. And just a final point on the early customers have been using this tool. Is there an ICP for Metaview right now? Like what are the kinds of teams that are doing well with this? I initially thought, so when you showed me one of the features, I thought, wow, should be great for agency recruitment as well, because actually how many interviews go through sort of an agency, none of it's particularly well documented, but if it's all recorded by transcription, suddenly you might actually elevate those guys as well. So who is the ICP right now for Metaview, Sal?
It's honestly anyone who's hiring at scale, to be honest, and that agency and in-house. Like there's sort of the overlap. I know we've sort of like in some cases obsessed over the difference between agency and in-house recruiting. In reality, like 80-90% of the work is quite similar. And it's just the sort of the final 10%. So it's both. We've had, huge scaling tech companies who've reported their time to fill has gone down by about 20% based on just sort of the speed with which they get high quality candidates in front of HMs. And we have agencies who essentially, I've got this really cool picture. I mean, I'll share it with you afterwards, Hung, and maybe if you think it's worthy, you can share it with the community. This agency recruiter who has 5 Metaview AI agents. He has this huge sort of curved sort of screen and 5 AI agents all running at the same time, probably for 5 different clients. And he's got his Iron Man suit on basically. So yeah, it works across the board.
Yeah, brilliant. I can see just so many opportunities for this product to work for so many different types of recruiters. So brilliant on building it, Sal, and great to help us spread the message with it. Brilliant stuff. We'll let you go because obviously you're a busy man. So thank you so much for your time, Sal. Great to see the demo by the CEO himself. So fantastic stuff. Thank you, mate.
Really good to see you both.
Thank you so much. Sorry for a lot of questions.
Thank you.
Great stuff, folks. That's it. I mean, just want a quick word. Firstly, we haven't gone through the LinkedIn share stuff. So if you've got time and you still want to do it, make sure you swap your LinkedIns in the chat stream now and then connect with everyone else who is doing the same. We need to be well networked, folks. So make sure you do that. I think one of the missions I've got in 2026 is to make sure everyone's network density increases. Because if it does, then us in recruitment are going to be in better shape than those without. Secondly, we also need to say LinkedIn should have fired, but it looks like it didn't work. I'll need to investigate why that was. And obviously, everyone who signed up to watch it on LinkedIn, we're going to give you a recording of this show as well. So you've got all of the good stuff, and we'll pick it up from there. But what a wonderful tool. I think it's obvious that recruitment is going to change with these products. It's a tremendously exciting time. I think you owe it to yourself to basically get yourself across these products. You need to learn it. You need to get a trial onto it. You need to understand what vibe sourcing is because it's going to make a difference in 2026. Okay, that's about it. Thank you very much. Alla Pavlova, thank you so much for joining and being smarter than me. It's very evident from your questions.
Not the case. Not the case. It's because I'm going to use it. And I think there was real questions in the chat. I want to thank everyone who was asking questions because it also was an indication that we are going in the right direction. And having these automatic searches, searching in your own ATS without the bias. What is really different in this demo was they really try to not to influence that much on your results with you being as the person who's influencing. As a recruiter, of course, I'm biased. If anyone in the chat says that they're not biased, so yeah, you have a brain, you are biased. So, and then how you teach other people. So I'm excited to see how we can teach AI a little bit more, like the knowledge part. I think that's one of the biggest changes. And this is who we are as as experts. But also, I'm happy to see recruiters not sourcing anymore, because I do think recruiters are not enjoying sourcing. Never enjoyed it that much. Sourcers enjoy sourcing. I will miss it. But for recruiters, good times. So you can finally do what you like the most.
That's it. Imagine just that. Remember, it wasn't so long ago when you're staring down like a 50 pagination search where you just got to go through stuff, and you know that's going to eat like 3 hours of your time, and you just got to zone out and try and do it. And give every candidate no more than like 3 seconds eyeball treatment before you switch on. So this is going to be faster and better. And yeah, it should mean progress for us in recruiting. The spare time, folks, is up to you what you do with your time saved. It's basically you have a responsibility then to expand scope from what you're doing and add value in other places. Okay, we'll let you go right now, folks. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on Friday. We're going to Brainfood Live on there. We're going to talk talent strategy. What is talent strategy? It is different from a hiring plan. And what is that difference? It may be the key difference that we need to understand if we want to get that fabled seat on the table. So make sure you watch that. Follow the channel if you're interested in getting updated, and we'll see you in a couple of days.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Cool. Bye-bye.